Since you're living under our roof, eating our food, using our electricity, I think it's only fair that you contribute. Half of what you make should go to household expenses. I stared at him in disbelief. What? Lily needs new winter clothes, Mom added. And we were thinking of signing her up for dance lessons. Those aren't cheap, you know. That's when I understood. This wasn't about me contributing to the household. This was about them taking my money to spend on Lily. No, I said quietly. It's my money. I earned it. I'm not giving you half of it for Lily's dance lessons. After that night, things changed. My parents did the bare minimum required by law. They fed me, bought me the cheapest clothes possible when I absolutely needed them, and kept a roof over my head. Otherwise, I barely existed to them. When I had a choir performance at school, they didn't show up. When I won an essay contest, they didn't congratulate me. It was like I'd been demoted from daughter to house guest and not a welcome one. Thankfully, I had my grandmother Eleanor. Dad's mom was nothing like him. She started coming to my school events, cheering louder than anyone else's parents. She'd take me shopping occasionally and listen to my problems over ice cream sundaes. By senior year, I was working nearly full-time hours on weekends and after school. I'd saved almost all my money and applied for every scholarship I could find. I knew college was my ticket out. On graduation day, my parents showed up for exactly 5 minutes. They took a couple photos. Then Dad checked his watch. They promised to take Lily to the movies. She's been so patient sitting through this. They left before my name was called, but Grandma Eleanor stayed. She whooped and hollered when I walked across the stage and took me out for a fancy dinner afterward. 2 weeks later at a rare family dinner, I decided to share my news. I got into State University. I start in August. We can't afford college, Dad interrupted, not even looking up from his plate. Not with Lily's private school tuition. The smugness in his voice told me he'd been waiting to say those words for years. I smiled. I don't need your money. I got a full scholarship. Everything's covered. Their forks froze midway to their mouths. Well, Mom finally said, that's nice for you. Then, as if my news meant nothing, she turned to Lily. Tell Chelsea about your science project, honey. She won first place in her grade. As Lily launched into a detailed explanation of her volcano made entirely of store-bought materials that Mom had probably assembled herself, I realized I felt nothing. No anger, no disappointment, just nothing. The next day, I packed my bags and moved in with Grandma Eleanor. She welcomed me with open arms. That summer was the best I had in years. I continued working at the coffee shop, saving as much money as possible for college. Living with Grandma Eleanor was nothing like living with my parents. She treated me like an actual person instead of a burden. I'm going to send you $1,000 every month for your housing, she told me one evening as we sat on her porch swing. Don't argue with me about it. Grandma, that's too much, I said, genuinely shocked by her generosity. She waved her hand dismissively. What else am I going to do with my money? Your grandfather left me well off, and I intend to use it to help the people I love. You're at the top of that list. In August, I packed up my car and headed to State University. The campus was beautiful, and my dorm room, while small, felt like freedom. My roommate Tara was from California and seemed nice enough. We weren't destined to be best friends, but we respected each other's space, which was all I really wanted. During my 4 years at college, I called Grandma Eleanor twice a week. My parents they called maybe once a month, and the conversations were always the same. How are your classes? Mom would ask. Fine, I'd reply. That's nice. Did I tell you Lily made the honor roll again? They never visited, not once. When parents' weekend came around, I'd hang out with my friends as families couldn't make the trip either. We called ourselves the Orphan Club and made it a tradition to go out for fancy dinners that weekend. I majored in business with a focus on financial management. I worked hard, graduated with honors, and immediately started job hunting. The thought of going back to my hometown never crossed my mind until I got an offer from Apex Financial, one of the top firms in the region. Take it, my advisor said when I told her about the offer. They rarely hire new graduates. Someone there must have been really impressed with your resume. So, I moved back to my hometown, but made sure to find an apartment far from my parents' house. I couldn't afford anything fancy, but it was mine. I didn't call to tell them I was back. Why would I? They hadn't even acknowledged my graduation. Grandma Eleanor, of course, was thrilled I was nearby again. Now I can fatten you up properly, she joked when she visited my new place, bringing enough home-cooked food to last me a week. My job at Apex was challenging but rewarding. I started as a junior financial analyst, which basically meant I did all the grunt work no one else wanted to do. I stayed late, came in early, and volunteered for the projects others avoided. After 2 years of non-stop work, I got my first promotion to senior analyst. But it came a nice salary bump, my own office, and more responsibilities. Instead of slowing down, I worked even harder. Mr. Thompson, the department head, called me into his office one day. Chelsea, I'm putting you in charge of the Richardson account. My heart nearly stopped. Richardson Enterprises was one of our biggest clients, known for being particularly demanding. Are you sure? I asked. Absolutely. You've earned this chance. Don't mess it up, he smiled, but I knew he was serious. For the next 3 months, I lived and breathed the Richardson account. I redesigned their entire investment portfolio, finding ways to increase returns while reducing risk. When I finally presented my plan to their board, they were silent for a full minute after I finished. Well, Mr. Richardson said, finally, I think we found our new financial advisor. Not only did we keep their business, but they increased their investment with us by 30. Mr. Thompson was ecstatic. He called a company meeting to recognize my achievement, gave me a substantial bonus, and increased my salary again. That night, I called Grandma Eleanor to share the good news. I knew you could do it, she said proudly. Now, please tell me you're going to take a vacation. You deserve it. Actually, I am, I told her. And I've got something for you too. The next day, I visited her with 2 envelopes. One contained a beautiful diamond bracelet I bought her as a thank you gift. The other held 2 tickets for a luxury Alaskan cruise. You and me, I explained as she opened the second envelope in shock. Next month, all expenses paid. For the first time in my life, I saw my grandmother speechless. Our cruise was incredible: glaciers, whales, northern lights. We saw it all. I posted photos on social media, something I rarely did. Partly to remember the trip and partly, I admit, to show off a little. Look at me now. 3 days after we returned, my phone rang. It was a number I rarely saw on my caller ID these days. Mom, I answered, genuinely surprised. Chelsea, darling, her voice was syrupy sweet. It's been too long. In fact, we were hoping you'd come over for dinner this Sunday. Your father is grilling steaks. I should have said no. I knew there had to be a reason for this sudden interest after years of near silence. But curiosity got the better of me. Sure, I said. What time? 600. And Chelsea, we're so proud of you, honey. We always knew you'd do well. The lies were so blatant, I didn't even bother responding. I just told her I'd see them Sunday and hung up. That Sunday, I drove to my parents' house feeling strangely detached. The house looked exactly the same faded blue paint, same flower beds that Mama obsessed over, same basketball hoop that Dad had installed for Lily, not me. I'd never been athletic enough for his tastes. Mom opened the door before I could knock, her smile wide and welcoming. Dad stood behind her, actually looking happy to see me. It was disconcerting. Chelsea, Mom hugged me tightly. You look fantastic. So professional and successful. I returned the hug awkwardly. Thanks. They ushered me inside, offering drinks and appetizers like I was an honored guest instead of their daughter. The conversation was unnervingly and pleasant, focusing on neutral topics like the weather and local news. Finally, when we sat down to eat, Dad cleared his throat. So, Chelsea, tell us about your job. You work at Apex Financial, right? As some kind of manager. I carefully avoided answering my father's question about my position and salary. I knew exactly where this conversation was heading. I'm doing well, I said vaguely. The company is great. What about Lily, is she around? The change of subject worked like a charm. My parents' faces instantly shifted from eager to troubled. Actually, Mom said with a heavy sigh. Lily is at college in Westfield. They had to take out quite a substantial loan for her tuition, plus her housing costs, meal plan, textbooks. Dad jumped in. The economy's been tough on my business. We're barely keeping up with the mortgage payments and now with these college bills. I put down my fork. I'm sorry to hear that. College is expensive. They exchanged a look that confirmed my suspicions about this dinner invitation. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. Chelsea, honey, we know we weren't always the most supportive parents. We made mistakes, terrible mistakes. The way we treated you compared to Lily, it wasn't fair. I sat there letting their words wash over me. Were they genuinely remorseful or just desperate for money? Probably both. We're so proud of you, Mom said, her eyes watering. And we're hoping maybe you could find it in your heart to help your family. Just until we get back on our feet. Parrot was the real reason for the sudden family reunion. I wanted to refuse, to tell them they'd made their bed and could lie in it. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the memory of Grandma Eleanor's words about not becoming bitter. Or maybe it was the realization that I could afford to help them without hurting myself financially. How much do you need? I asked. Relief flooded their faces. And Dad actually teared up. Just enough to help with the bills and loan payments. Maybe $1,000 a month. I nearly choked on my water. That was a significant sum, the same amount Grandma had given me for housing during college. But my recent promotion and bonus meant I could manage it. I can do that, I said. I'll set up a monthly transfer. They both burst into tears, thanking me profusely. I felt nothing, no warmth, no reconnection, just a vague sense that I was doing the right thing despite them not deserving it. When I told Grandma Eleanor about my decision the next day, she surprised me by approving. You're a better person than they are, she said simply. That's something to be proud of. Over the next few months, I saw my parents more frequently, occasional dinners, sometimes with Lily when she was home from college. She hadn't changed a bit, still self-centered, still treated like a princess by our parents. But what struck me was her appearance. Her clothes were designer brands, her nails professionally done, and she sported a new MacBook and iPhone. I didn't mention it. I kept sending the money each month, and my parents kept thanking me with over-the-top gratitude that felt hollow. Then they started asking for more, small amounts at first. The car needs repairs. Could you help with $200? The water heater broke. Would $350 be too much to ask? I rarely said no. My career was thriving and I told myself it was just money. At work, I was assigned a major project restructuring our approach to corporate clients. If successful, it would likely lead to a department head position. I threw myself into it, working longer hours than ever. Finally, after months of work, my project concluded successfully. The CEO personally congratulated me, and the promotion I'd been hoping for came through department head of corporate relations, with a salary nearly double what I'd been making. I bought an expensive bottle of wine and drove straight to Grandma Eleanor's house to celebrate. I'm so proud of you, she said, clinking her glass against mine. But promise me now you'll take some time for yourself. I will, I agreed. Maybe I'll even start dating again. Hallelujah, she laughed. A week later, I made time to visit my parents for dinner. Lily was home from college, and I noticed she had a new designer handbag that probably cost more than my first month's rent. I got promoted, I announced during dinner, trying to share my accomplishment. A strange silence fell over the table. Then Mom said,